Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome to Poised for Exit, the exit planning podcast show. Our guests for this episode are partners in a health supplements company with 18 patented products that they sell all over the world. They're going to share their generational transition story and how they've grown and evolved as partners. But first, a message from our show sponsors. Are you a business owner getting ready to transition? If so, I recommend True North Mergers and Acquisitions as your confidential strategic partner. They understand your business sale isn't just about one buyer and the price, but what you net that counts. In other words, what you get to keep. When you're ready for a higher level of representation that delivers consistent results, contact True North M&A to do the heavy lifting of selling your business. Learn more at tnma.com. That's tnma.com.
Selling your business may be the furthest thing from your mind, but that doesn't mean you should wait to plan. At TrustPoint, we understand the nuances that come with selling a business and are here to guide you. From unlocking tax efficiencies to minimizing risk, we'll develop the strategies to ensure you're prepared. So, when the time arrives, you'll be ready to enjoy the best years of your life. Learn more at TrustPointInc.com. That's TrustPointinc.com.
For business owners, it can be overwhelming to start planning a transition or exit strategy, but it's so important to avoid unwanted outcomes and unexpected tax bills. The CPAs at JAK, John A. Knutson and Company, can guide you and help make sense of the numbers. Our firm was established over 90 years ago, and we've assisted countless companies with ownership transitions. Leaving your business is a process that takes time. So contact us today to discuss your situation. Visit our website at jakcpa.com. That's jakcpa.com.
Listeners, my name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We are here in the studio with Jeff Porubcan, who is the CEO of Master Supplements, Inc., and his partner, Jeff Thurston, who's on the line with us from Pennsylvania. Gentlemen, welcome to Poised for Exit.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Good to have you guys. Jeff Porubcan, I've had you on the show in the past, but it's been a while, and lots of really good things have happened, and not so good things since then. And so we're going to kind of start maybe with just talking about how Master Supplements came to be, and then how you came into the picture, how Jeff Thurston came into the picture. So let's just kind of start with the beginning for our listeners so they get a little context on what we're talking about. And then from there, we're going to go into the transition from generation 1 to 2, talk about how your dad was instrumental in getting this all started, and then talk about how things are going in the digestive health supplement world. I know you sell all over the world, like I said in the show opener, so there's lots to talk about there. So we're going to try and cover all that in this short time.
Sounds great.
Okay. So how'd you get started?
I'll start off here, Jeff, and since you were certainly there from the beginning, as my dad's original partner was really Randy Porubcan and Jeff Thurston. I was a young kid just out of college and was privileged enough to go along in some of the 2003 and 2004 initial production runs of the probiotic supplements that we're still currently selling. And back then, they weren't as well known as they are now. But it was a little bit different back then. It was a little easier just to kind of start up and work with a contract manufacturer. And I don't want to say it was like the Wild West of supplementation, but it was just, it was before Amazon, and things were so different then, but it was really my dad bringing me into the fold and showing me some of the ropes. And I learned so much from him and from Jeff Thurston, who we got on the call. And it started with just a website and selling to doctors. And I'll let Jeff get into how natural, healthcare professionals were, and getting into the trade show and conference circuit. Really, that face-to-face marketing is, I think, where it really started for us. So what I will say for my dad was he gave us such a scientific edge from his decades as a microbiologist and as a biochemist in, really the commercialization of probiotics, going way back, and had been instrumental in some patent development and really how to optimize the growth and reproduction of the probiotic bacteria themselves. And that scientific edge is strong enough for us where and we even out of our 18 U.S. patents have some that are now expiring and coming up, but the scientific edge, even with that, is still so strong in how it relates to how the products work, how the probiotics get through the system. So thank you, Dad, for really that scientific edge. And in the world of supplements, there's so much out there and it's so diluted. So to actually have something that's different and a really sharp scientific edge is key for us, and has been and still is. Maybe with that, Jeff, I'll pass it over to a little bit more of the history there from your perspective.
Sure. I met Randy at an organic agriculture conference in California. We were both speaking, and that night we went out to dinner, and we got to talking. My background is biochemistry and biology. His background was biology and chemistry. We're both from small schools in the upper Midwest, and we just really kind of hit it off and stayed in touch over the years. He said, someday we need to start a business. And in August of 2003, he called me up and said, "You ready?" And I dropped everything, and we just started Master Supplements.
Wow.
And we started it there were 3 legs to the stool at the time. The first leg was direct to the consumer. The second leg of the stool was going into health food stores. And the third leg of the stool was selling to doctors. So we started doing a lot of conferences. Back then we did, I think our very first one was AANP, which is a naturopathic physician conference. And of all the people that signed up to take our products the first year, stayed with us until they died or until they closed their practice. So the products work, and the loyalty, because of the science, stuck in there. And then, as time progressed, the world really started to change. Stores started being replaced by online, and Amazon came along, and Amazon started. Everybody started selling your product, and one would sell it for $1, one would sell it for 99, the next one was 98, and then they would come to us and say, "We need to lower our price." And it just got to the point where it was very difficult to stay in business.
Yeah.
When you had so many people selling on Amazon. So we made that change. And then in 2019, in a discussion with one of our investors, it came up it was either eat or be eaten. And in 2019, we started looking around to find somebody to acquire. And that's when we acquired US Enzymes.
Yeah.
And so that's where we got to be pretty much where we are today.
So maybe that helps a lot. Thanks for the context, you guys. Let's fast forward now. Randy has since passed away, and during that process, which was long and arduous for all of you, and for him, of course, we were in the throes of transition planning, and that wasn't an easy endeavor, right? But it's complete now, and we're moving forward. But let's just talk a little bit about that process, because we have a lot of listeners out there who are in family businesses, and they're either in the throes of transition planning from one gen to the next, or they're planning to be at some point, or maybe they already have. But I think it's good to share a little bit about this story, and then we'll go into more about the business and some of the other things that you have going on.
Sure. I think the first thing that comes to mind is there's always this sense that you can do it later. And a lot of that was coming from my father. And then with our planning, and we've been at it for years, before, obviously with his passing, it was as sad as it was, natural. And I'm glad that we had, but it took a better part of 10 years to have all the tough conversations.
Yeah.
And just to not wait. I mean, there were some things like a trust, for example, that was created in 2016, but then, and actually, a structure, and everyone, can decide how they're going to go about doing that. But funding of the trust, that didn't happen until many years later. It was like, and we were kind of talking through it. And just at the time, I think there's so many other things for a business owner and an entrepreneur. You're not thinking of really setting the stage for what comes next. And it's sort of, I think, morbid for that individual to be, in that position. But you really, it just goes such a long way. And we had the planning, and then there was a few things that, I'm thankful that just in the past year, we were able to get buttoned up that put us in a good position to successfully go from Gen 1 to Gen 2.
Yeah.
And that's, where we find ourselves now. And I think that scientific edge I mentioned from a company standpoint gives us, some proprietary, a differentiator. So that, really from him, my dad as the founder, that science part is still there. But you also, you got to make sure you got someone sailing the ship. And I was fortunate enough to work under my dad's wing for over a decade where, not everybody's going to be in that situation. But I was always really grateful for that because, if this would have happened 10 years ago, we might be in a, just wouldn't have been anywhere near the exit planning or the succession planning that we had come to. So was just grateful that we had that time, and you might not always have that. So just, get it done and do it now.
Right. You don't always know how much time you have, for sure. Yeah. Jeff Thurston, what's your perspective on that process?
Yeah, it goes back to a lot of different things. But if you're going to make some planning, it's easier to do the planning when you have the mental facilities to do it.
Yeah.
So many people get lost, what I need to do this, and they procrastinate. Such an important thing. I mean, it goes down to simple things like wills or special needs trusts or succession planning. Whatever it is, you need to get that plan in place. You can change it, but you got to get something in place so that, heaven forbid something, drastic happens, you're prepared. You can't just keep putting it off until tomorrow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, like Jeff Porubcan said, the fact that they had the time, that was a huge blessing because not everybody has the time. So, I mean, I could tell stories of clients of mine over the last several years who ran out of time and weren't ready, and it didn't end well. And it's preventable, right? So no one likes to talk about that mortality thing, but it's definitely real, part of life. So let's talk about some of the challenges, and then we'll get into the wins, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about the industry itself and how that is kind of driving some of the new initiatives. In fact, at the end of the show, I want to spend some time on your podcast that you've launched because I want our listeners to know about it because it's such a good show. So, all right, so let's talk first about, what would you say through all this process, what was the most challenging thing for you, or the most challenging thing in running the company? Because Jeff, you've been running the business and doing such an amazing job. So proud of you.
Thank you. I don't see anything. I mean, there's challenges like there is probably in every industry. I think you have to keep your head sort of on a swivel, and because the trends are changing and the industry is changing. So that's what I would put up as our quote unquote challenges. Jeff mentioned the consumers going over to Amazon, and if you weren't ready for that, we're seeing some of that now with some of the larger healthcare professional trends where they're going through larger distribution or dispensaries, which are really convenient for them, and they're really convenient for their patients. But if you're stuck in your old model of how you're doing business, which a lot of companies are, and it's hard for anyone to sometimes change, and the whole generational perspective comes back. One generation might just like the way it's been done and aren't so eager to turn it all on its head and start new, and different people will have different wherewithal for that. But we're certainly seeing that in our industry. And if as a challenge, with the business side, I'd say just changing with the times, and I think we're pretty good at that because we have good advice by working with you and others, certainly. Jeff mentioned the merger and acquisition. That was a challenging time for us. We'd actually had a couple of years where we'd been around for 16, 17 years, and there was a definite plateau that we had all felt.
Yeah.
And it was sort of this, well, maybe, that merger and acquisition. And it really, and I think that was the last time I was on, we came on and talked about that because it was such an instrumental change for our company. So that was all really good, and saw the benefits of bringing probiotics and enzymes together with master supplements and U.S. enzymes. And I would leave challenges there. To me, it's just a lot of the day-to-day blocking and tackling, and sort of have a ready for anything, but you have to be ready for anything.
Yeah.
I think, and be looking in multiple directions was thinking in multiple directions was something my dad would always say. So that's fitting. The challenge with the exit strategy was, just the basics, just even sometimes starting the conversation or having the conversation.
Yeah.
Those were some of the most frustrating times, and trying to articulate the importance and why to do it now. I remember things you said probably 10 years ago of, that's when you talk about the first generation, and for my dad, that was, his chance by planning when we did and actually getting it done, was his chance to have a say in what was going to happen. And I think that's just such a powerful thing. That's how, so that it just doesn't happen and it's all left for others to determine. This is a time for you to have some control of how this all goes. So, but we got it all done. There were some challenges there of just, keeping things moving, and you talk about it, and then a month and a half, passes, and it's coming up again. So just making sure there was progress, happening at all those stages. So.
Well, I remember too, before you bought U.S. Enzymes, remember the other companies that we looked at that we were so excited about that you thought for sure were going to be the perfect roll-up for you, and then two times, I think, if I remember right, the seller backed out.
Yeah, there was some ups and downs there.
Yeah,
and
frustrating.
I think we learned from all of those.
For sure, but
kind of
still,
going through the initial conversations. But yeah, that was it. It took us a while, and we had almost abandoned the idea of buying versus building, and we were just going to kind of hunker down, and maybe there's a lesson there too. Just like when we sort of stopped looking, essentially, and then all of a sudden something popped up, and then that was the perfect fit. And
it was.
Now after 5 years, we can look back and say, yeah, that was the one.
Good move for sure. Yeah.
One of the interesting things about that, though, was that two of the companies we were looking at were privately held companies.
Yes.
And privately held companies, the owners have, and rightfully so, have an inflated view of what their company is worth.
Yeah, that's common.
But their numbers don't say it's worth that.
Right.
And so what really came down to was, we said, well, this is what the numbers show it's worth. And they said, oh, no, we're worth a lot more than that. So, we're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's having to understand that the numbers on your balance sheet are determining what your company is worth. You may have some intellectual properties and things of that sort that have some goodwill and maybe a customer list, but there are some limitations on what your company's worth versus what you think it's worth.
Especially if the owners go away, because if the owners are the business and then they go away, then there really isn't a whole lot left, right, to transition over. So, yeah, like Jeff said, there were some lessons that we learned there. And it's been, just to say, it's been an honor being able to, work with you guys and walk alongside you through all of these things. I'm just excited for the future. And so let's talk about the future. You've got some big things that you've been working on. You got some new products. You've got a podcast show. Let's talk about that a little bit before we wrap up.
The podcast it was at your podcast actually, and I listened to lots of podcasts. It's becoming more and more of a popular medium, but it was just in our business together, and really just the ease of the email that you sent out, and I could just click on it, and I'm listening to another business owner or someone from the community, and just so many good conversations. Out of one of the new things, and you mentioned some of the new products and other initiatives we have, but I'm probably most excited about the podcast because it's just it's so popular, and you can see why when you have long form and you can just kind of get caught up. You can listen while you're working out, or while you're at work and you're working on something else. We had done webinars and these master classes, which had the audio component, and they'd been popular. But yeah, the podcast, it's the Following Your Gut podcast. So in probiotics and enzymes, it's everything related to gut health, and we've got a mixture of good doctors, great doctors that have been on as guests so far, and some nice guests planned. And Roland, who hosts it, I got to say, just for him, he is, we've been at this for a long time. We sell to our products to a lot of amazing practitioners, and Roland is the one guy who can really keep up with them.
Yeah,
Jeff
always,
as well.
Yeah, I learn so much every time I listen to the stuff you guys put out there. So
he's really good at articulating, and he's told me since he's always visualizing the body when he's talking, and I'm just amazed at how seems like he's in there, whether it's the nervous system or the complicated immune system. So he's great host for us to go back and forth with these doctors. And we just launched one on the mitochondria, and it was 2 parts. Amazing practitioner named Kurt Wohler, and just our latest episode, and there'll be a lot more to come. But yeah, it was a great deep dive.
All right, Following Your Gut. That's the name of the show, right?
Yep.
All
that's
right.
it.
And how often are you posting a new episode?
So we're posting every 2 weeks. And we've got a few recorded, and just waiting to post. And then we're doing our usual stuff. We have a monthly webinar that we do, and other initiatives as well.
So the webinars, are they directed more towards the medical field, or are they directed towards consumers, or both?
So we do separate webinars. The one for the monthly for the doctors is usually a more of a deep dive for the doctors, but there's a lot of crossover. Once we post to social, you sort of get all types of people who may or may not be interested. And there's a lot of health warriors, moms, dads, individuals who are just doing their own research more than ever. And there's a lot of research that's out there. But it's, the healthcare professionals are also the guiding light for a lot of people, and really are needed. So our webinars are geared towards both. Sometimes we'll do different topics to kind of cater to one over the other, but it's both.
Well, your products have been amazing, and I've been using them myself for almost 10 years now. And so I'm going to just shout out to you guys for your Theralac product, Enzalase, Cleanzyme. Now I'm using Sun Fiber. I mean, those products are game changers.
You can feel them working. And when people have digestive issues, to be able to take something that you actually feel making you better is what it's all about.
It is. Yeah. Right? Don't they say that that everything starts in the gut? Like if your gut's healthy, then the rest of you is healthy?
Yeah, well, it starts with what you eat, and then your ability to break it down, like that's where the enzymes come in. Jeff talks about this, and Roland too. If you don't chew your food, you're getting these huge particles of food, and just not chewing completely can cause so many downstream issues, from like a large piece of red meat from a steak that, my 15-year-old son just like eats too fast. It's like, no, you gotta chew, because that can actually lead to inflammation once those particles of protein deep in the GI tract. So breaking down food, that's where the enzymes really come in from a digestive standpoint. And then probiotics, they say we all have about 4 pounds of bacteria, which would look really gross if you could like pull it out of your body and actually.
Oh my gosh, really?
So thankfully they're microscopic, but 4 pounds out of your body weight, that's your microbiome. And not just your gut microbiome, but your full body microbiome. So with our probiotics, we're really just targeting the lining of the gut. And you're absolutely right. What you eat, it goes into the gut first, and then you hear about like the gut-brain axis, and there's the gut-lung axis, and how the gut ties into all these other systems of the body. So you got to be utilizing your food. It's where your energy comes from, and eliminating your waste Jeff, I'll let you maybe have the last word on that, 'cause I know you know our education on that.
Yeah, just real quick, Jeff Thurston. It sounds like you got some birds tweeting in the background there. Are you outside?
No.
Oh.
I'm in my office, but I do wish I had some birds too. But the robins are back, so we're
that's
we're
nice.
headed there. So I put it quite simply. It's not just what you eat. You do have to eat good food. It has to be nutrient dense, lots of minerals in it. But it's not just what you eat, but it's what you digest. And it's not just what you digest, but what you assimilate and eliminate. That is really, really, really important. And then there's a lot of other issues that can go on, and some systemic enzymes can help reduce some of those unwanted proteins that are floating around your circulation. So, there's those are the steps that we have to go through to get to good health.
Well, we could keep going on that one. Lots to talk about there, and I'm sure our listeners would be interested. So maybe that's part 2. We'll have to have you back again, right?
Yeah, or then they can find us on the Following Your Gut podcast.
And they can, exactly. That was my next thing. And your webinars. So we're going to have all of that information in our show notes, some links to, obviously, to your podcast and to your website for sure. And I just want to say, again, thanks for being on the show. It's an honor working with you, honor to have you be here and share your wisdom and share your story. So onward and upward, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jeff Thurston.
And thank you, Julie, for all you do for us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Jeff Thurston, and thanks, Jeff Porubcan. And thank you to our listeners for joining us. Please join us again next time.